Good morning, Trump family. Welcome to Open Source News. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this Wednesday morning. And we covered this story a little bit in depth last year, where Mark Milley would reveal that Mark Milley and Nancy Pelosi colluded with one another, along with other agencies within the US government, to run a coup against President Trump. And in some ways, or in many ways, to ensure that President Trump didn't have access to nuclear codes, which obviously is usurping the power of the president. And what they did was actually treason. Well, what we didn't know at the time is that Milley did hide the codes from President Trump. Absolutely. This is treason. This should result in him being sentenced and then having execution carried out, because that's what the penalty for treason is. And they know exactly what they did. We've talked about how they've run a coup against the President Trump during his time in office, from the very beginning, when he was sworn in, all the way to the very end, and how they worked together in tandem with the Democrats, with the rhinos, with the intel, and with certain aspects of military leadership, who were all plotting against President Trump, and they have to use Fauci's secret weapon to ensure that it unleashed the world to shut down the United States in order to remove Trump from office, because that was the only way that we're going to be able to institute all the mail and battling that we mail in voting and all the ballot harvesting that we saw took place in 2020. It was all a way in order to remove him, because they were unable to remove him through the impeachment process with the whole Ukraine thing. We know that he was being charged with things that Biden actually did not, Trump, and then we're actively working to remove him. So we have more evidence here of Mark Milley, Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of the infrastructure around DC working against him. So let's go and dive into what we have here. It says treason. Yarail Milley hit new codes from Trump, held secret calls with a Chinese defense officials, then surrender to Taliban, and armed DEMA $80 billion in US weapons. Yeah. He believes he belongs in the brig, and he belongs to be on trial and then to be charged with treason. According to the book Peril, written by Bob Woodward, General Milley, the Joint Chief Chairman, told China in a secret phone call that he would give advance warning if the US ever going to attack, in a pair of secret phone calls on October 20th. Doubt was before the election, by the way. That was before the election, and January 8th. General Mark Milley, the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, assured his Chinese counterpart General Li Zhou-Qing of the PLA that the U.S. would not strike, according to the new book written by The Washington Post's associate editor Bob Woodward and national political editor Robert Costa. On January 8, 2021. The same day, Milley reportedly spoke to China in a secret phone call. CNN ran a story claiming Pelosi had gotten assurances from Milley that there were safeguards put in place in an event that President Trump wants to launch a nuclear weapon. According to Fox News, 15 people were present when Milley called China on a teleconference in October of 2020, which was coordinating with then Defense Secretary Mark Esper. It's off. Trump eventually fired Esper. Milley released a statement through his spokesman that confirmed that reporting in the book Peril and by Bob Woodward and Robert Costa that stated Milley had 2 conversations with his counterpart in the Chinese military to undermine it. President Trump, Christopher Miller, Trump's acting Secretary of Defense from the 2020 through the inauguration day, called Milley's phone call an unprecedented act of insubordination in a statement to Fox News. On Monday, Robert Costa reportedly reported that Milley spoke to Pelosi, that he agreed that Trump was crazy, and he reassured the speaker that the nuclear codes were safe. And a moment in American history. A Speaker of the House as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of the nuclear codes were safe. Because she fears the president is crazy and liable to make a deadly decision to stay in power. Just months later, General Milley surrendered to the Taliban, armed a terrorist group with $80 billion in U.S. weapons and supplies. To one of the biggest mistakes from President Trump during that time was trusting people like Mark Milley and allowing him to run roughshod over him and prevent him from having the nuclear codes in a case of it attacked that would have landed on U.S. soil, knowing that Chinese knew that we would not act first, because they have assurances from the Chief of Staff, the highest ranking officer that advises the president, that we would not act first, giving a clear message to the Chinese that if they wanted to attack the United States, they could preemptively launch an attack on us. And we would not do anything about it because President Trump would not be able to access the codes. Absolutely disgusting. The way that this whole coup ran, because of their thirst for money, their thirst for power, and their disdain for the American people who sent President Trump to the White House in an effort to break up the good old boys club of DC, all of the insiders and everything else. And they responded accordingly, ensuring that President Trump was ousted, and then launched an attack on President Trump his supporters over the course of the last few years. I do hopefully that the House of Representatives led by the Republicans will hold this regime accountable. And we will see things take place. Not holding my breath, but I truly hope it happens. And this is some big news. Representative Adam Kinzinger wants President Donald Trump charged and jailed for January 6. And Biden can't figure out why oil companies don't want to invest their own money in U.S. infrastructure. Plus, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich says Republicans must use Kevin McCarthy as Speaker or Congress will fall into chaos. Plus, Biden teams up with Senator Mitch McConnell to tell the American people how the $1.7 trillion spending bill won't lead to more inflation and will, in fact, improve their lives. Last night, the city of Kyiv successfully defended itself against exploding Russian drones. Overall, Russia sent 40 drones to attack Kyiv and other provinces in the area, but were ultimately unsuccessful as they were able to shoot down all of the drones. Each of these drones being shot down likely saved hundreds of lives. So it's nice to see Ukraine have a win after Putin and the Russian Federation army have been bombarding them day after day since Christmas. And a shocking twist of events. President Biden will be joined by Republican leader Mitch McConnell to tout the newly passed $1.7 trillion spending bill on Wednesday of this week. The White House stated they will discuss how his economic plan is rebuilding our infrastructure, creating good-paying jobs that don't require a 4-year degree, revitalizing communities that are left behind. Biden has long claimed to be a president for all people, not just Democrats. However, his actions and the speeches he gave in 2020, to show just how much he dislikes Republicans, especially Make America Great Republicans and anybody who. Now, this will be them trying to explain how printing another $1.7 trillion of debt won't lead to more inflation and will, in fact, bless your life. But as I've gone through the $1.7 trillion bill, it doesn't do a lot for the average American, especially the middle class and lower income families. The stock market was red today, with all indices or indexes being down. However, there were many individual stocks that did well. Some are saying this is not a good start to a new year. However, other analysts say that the first week of the year almost always has lower trade volume. So you shouldn't judge the success of a stock's calendar year based on the first week. So basically, it's too early to determine whether the market will be up or down for the year. However, many mining stocks, junior mining stocks, and energy-related stocks, such as oil and gas, were in the green and positive today. Even though stocks were extremely volatile in 2022. Many experts have pointed out that this was a year of record-breaking dividends from companies paying out dividends. But if you want to ensure growth on your money and protect against the downside, then you need to look for companies that have a healthy dividend-paying aspect to owning their stock. And this is what many smart financial analysts are saying, is that dividend-paying stocks were the winner in 2022. And I completely agree with their assessment. Vice President Kamala Harris has suddenly become scared of COVID again. She is now requiring anyone that wants to see her, meet her, take a photo with her, or even be around her to produce a negative COVID test. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich is telling the new House Republicans that they have a duty to elect Kevin McCarthy of California for the new House Speaker position. He said as to not even mess with having a Republican majority and then accidentally giving a Democrat the Speaker position. He said McCarthy is to be made House Speaker or Congress will descend into chaos. What do you think? Will Kevin McCarthy be a good replacement for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi this coming year? Let me know your thoughts down below. The most watched show on Netflix ever was the Addams Family redo of the limited series Wednesday. It broke records and Netflix gave it the green light to go towards season 2, and fans are losing their mind with excitement. However, it's going to be a legal battle. Season 2 might only be available on Amazon Prime, as Amazon will be purchasing MGM Studios, which owns the rights to the Addams Family franchise. So that could be a big upset. Have you seen Wednesday on Netflix? If so, did you love it? Or did you hate it? It's a limited series directed by Tim Burton, who has vowed to never work with Disney again. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Our family watched it. I thought it was very entertaining. President Biden is back from his vacation in the Caribbean, where he stayed with a billionaire friend for free. So thanks for saving the American taxpayers some money. But now he's ready to get back to work for the American people. And his first order of business was to publicly attack oil companies. He said, "I can't understand why you're not willing to invest in making more oil and gas." It's like this guy has completely forgotten that for months and months, he publicly drugged these people through the mud, threatened to put them out of business, and said his number one goal is to replace them. But now he's wondering, why don't you guys want to invest your own money and get more oil and gas to make me look good? He said, "If you want to pay dividends, pay your dividends. If you want to pay shareholders, pay your shareholders, but please start investing in American oil and gas infrastructure." Now, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that way, oil and gas companies are suddenly going to say, "You know what? This is a sitting president, we're going to do what he says," or do you think they're going to snap him and do what's best for them and protect themselves against being put out of business by the federal government? Biden's Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said she is excited and eager to work with these oil companies on a solution. "I guess maybe you shouldn't have subpoenaed them to testify in front of Congress and then harassed them and publicly shamed them. But what do I know? Right? All right, now there may be some relief for investors in the FTX Ponzi scheme. That is, if lawyers and court fees don't eat up all of the money that comes back. It's been recently discovered that the country of the Bahamas seized $3.5 billion of FTX cash and assets. They say that they are willing to hand it back over to the United States Bankruptcy Court when the time is right. So there may be some light at the end of this very dark tunnel. Outgoing Republican Representative Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who is known for hating President Trump and serving on the January 6 committee at the request of Nancy Pelosi, says it's time to charge Donald Trump with a crime and lock him up in jail. Kinzinger said in a statement today, if Trump isn't charged and jailed, that he fears for the country. He also said if a president holding a rally to interrupt a congressional process that lead to violence isn't a crime, that he doesn't know what is. Kinzinger then gave his final words on his final CNN interview and said he will not miss working in Congress. It's awful. Is Kinzinger right? Is Trump going to be charged and sent to jail for the rest of his life? Or is Kinzinger an angry, biased Republican put in place by Nancy Pelosi? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Former National Secretary Advisor H.R. McMaster said he's very worried about China. China has been saying publicly that they want to basically instigate war-like activity with the United States in order to excite their own army in their own country, but also rally China's allies to China. So basically, they're saying, we need to provoke the United States and get them into more warlike situations, so that we can rally China and get allies to back China. Let me know. Do you think that this is China's way of saying that they're going to make a move on Taiwan and get their base rallied and get their allies rallied? What do you think? Are they willing to poke the millet, the American military bear? Or is this all just rhetoric and talk in the news? Let me know your thoughts down below. Last week, I reported that popular Republicans are blaming former President Donald Trump for poor performance in the midterms. However, Trump is saying that Republicans lost their own midterm elections. And the fact that they took such a harsh stance on abortion was the number one thing that cost them the election. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, Trump continues to bask in the new revelation that nothing was found out from his taxes being leaked to the American people. Despite this, critics have still found other ways to attack Trump, saying this proves that billionaires pay taxes differently than the rest of the country, and that all of these loopholes should be closed, or that there should be a flat tax on everyone. That way, super wealthy people like Trump and Jeff Bezos aren't able to leverage write-offs to lower their tax burden down to zero. He said it's time to fundamentally change the tax code. Let me know what you think about that. Now that Trump's taxes ended up being a nothing burger, many Democrat leaders in Congress are saying that this was a bad move, to release citizens' taxes to the public without his or her permission. Really, what they're saying is that they are afraid of revenge now that they did this, and it ended up being a nothing burger. But let me know what you think. Should they have released former President Donald Trump's taxes to the public without his permission? I'd be very curious to hear from you. That's what I got for you, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you're up for it, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching.